tying another fly from this Common Sense Fly book. If you don't know what this is, I'll link a video at the top here. It's of me explaining where I got this, how old it is, and the history behind it, and the flies that were in it. Doing a lot of videos on the flies that were in it, basically showing how to tie them. It's a cool story. You should check it out, especially if you're interested in old fly fishing gear. One we're tying is this one. This is the one that really made it all click. This is a March Brown, and if you have the Vala Tying Catskill Drives book, you can see a picture of this fly, and not this specific one, but one just like it from the same company that tied this one, which is William Mills and Son. So check it out. Now, something that I figured out about this fly is, well, I figured out all the materials that are in it. That I know. I know all the materials that are in it. I looked at it under a loop. A loop is like a watchmaker or a jeweler's tool. You see it, it's like a round thing. Loop, L-O-U-P-E, not L-O-O-P. It's like a round thing, you put it in your eye and you look. But, I mean, if you don't have that, I mean, you should really have like a magnifying glass or something like this. This is one that I have also, and this one is interesting because it has like a light and two different magnifications. Another good one is if you wear glasses, like I wear glasses, this is a good one. And basically what it does is that it, take your glasses, it hooks on right here. Now, it does look a little stupid, right? When you need it, you can flip it down, and then when you don't, you can flip it up. But I mean, if nobody's in the room with you, it's not a big deal. But yeah, I would pick up something like this. It's always good to have one of these things. This one that flips down is kind of handy because you know the ones that have are magnetic here. They're not prescription glasses. They're just magnifiers. Well, if you wear glasses like I do, you can't wear those. If you have contacts, you can wear them, of course. But if you wear glasses, you can't do it. So this thing really comes in handy. You put it on your strong eye side, right? Mine is my right, and then you just, when you need it, you can just flip it down. I looked at this fly under a loop, and here's what I found. The first thing is that this is all soft hackle. There's no stiff hackle in here at all, which is interesting. And the hackle that's being used here is a Hungarian Partridge, which is essentially like English Partridge, or there's a couple different names for it, but essentially it's a brown Hungarian Partridge. There's brown and there's gray, and I think it's like different phases of the bird. I don't believe it's a male or female. It's like one's brown and one's gray. I don't think that's how it works. I think it's just a different phase creates this brown color. And the tail is Hungarian Partridge as well, English Partridge, whatever you want to call it. The body's hare's ear. And the wing is either hen pheasant, or what I'm going to use is golden pheasant. If you remember, if you saw the last video I did with the golden pheasant, I used this part of the wing. Well, now we're using this part. This looks very much like a hen. Has the same sort of color to it. If this isn't golden pheasant, it's extremely close to a golden pheasant. It's hen pheasant and golden pheasant very close, like I was saying. The last thing that I thought was interesting about this fly is there's a rib on this thing, and when you look at it, it looks black, or like a very, very, very dark gray, or like a gunmetal, or something like that. And if you look at the picture in that Vala book, which is right here, I'll grab it. All right. If you look at it there, you can see it. And every one of these is that dark gray or black wire. And I tell you, when I first pulled this fly out of the box, I was like, man, that's kind of weird. A black wire. I was like, and I said, you know what? I bet you if I get this underneath the loop, I'm going to see gold somewhere on this thing. I bet you it's old gold that gold just washed away. I get the loop out, I look underneath, and I saw one little speck of gold right in the back over here. So this was a gold wire. We're going to rib this in a gold wire, and I think that's it. We're only going to use soft hackle. This is a very tricky hackle, and I'll tell you why, because it's very short, and there's a lot here. Now, in the pictures in the Valor book, there isn't this many, or at least maybe it wasn't in the picture. Maybe those were fish. They probably were fish. If I remember correctly, the hooks were rusted. So maybe they were fish, and a lot of these hackles were taken off. That's interesting. So maybe they started out like this. But it's hard to get this much hackle, let me tell you. Now, they did also put some fluff in there, which is interesting as well, right? Well, that's what we're going to try and do. The hook we're using is this Mustad. I tell you, I don't know how this thing floated. With that heavy hook they were using, soft hackle. I don't get it. It's not even dry fly dubbing, it's just a hare's ear. Pretty crazy if you think about it. But this is it. This is the fly. And that's how we're going to tie it. That's the rules. Alright, golden pheasant. Or hen pheasant. You need a lot more than you think on these wings. You need a good amount, because when you get them into position and you squeeze them down, it collapses on you, and they get so much smaller. So take off a good amount, left and right. Make sure the curve, you're essentially tying like a wet fly forward, and then you're going to post it because you want the curve on the back. So a good amount, and definitely a hook. Gonna go back. It didn't really collapse like it should have, because I didn't have the thread. You got to make sure you pull that thread all the way down to the shank. Tie it in. Cut it off. That's in good. Now we go back to the wing. Post it now to make sure it's good. You don't want to do too many turns in that crevice without going forward a bit, because it'll just create too steep of a dam, which will end up just making it slip. Now, we're going to separate these. Sometimes you can get feathers that curve away enough that you don't need to separate them. You don't need to put a figure 8 in. But the further you go up this little wing right here, the straighter and the flatter they're going to be. Which means the more that you're going to need to separate them somehow. There's a couple different ways to do it. You can do a figure 8, and that works, but it's a little tricky with these feather wings. They can very easily get screwed up when you do a figure 8. So a good trick is just get your needle in here and really separate them enough. Then take some UV and you put some UV right, see where I'm doing this right here? You just want a little drop, and then you put your bobbin right back into that same spot, and you open them up and you get that UV in there. And then you just hit it with the light. Now that should, and you don't want to use too much because obviously it adds weight. Not like this freaking fly isn't heavy, it's ridiculously heavy. That's the lightest thing on this thing is that UV. But that will help it. Now if you wanted to now maybe throw a figure eight in, you can, but it's really, I don't really like doing figure eights on feather wings, me personally. I just don't really like it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Just don't like to collapse the wing too much. Make sure it's up. And there we go. I might bring this thing back. And now we do the tail. The tail is Hungarian Partridge. You know, you need to find the two hardest feathers to do this thing. The real long ones and the real short ones. The middle ones are pretty easy to find, but the real long ones and the real short ones are tough. And the length really matters. It's maybe a hook, and we barely got that. If you look, see that? We barely got it. You know what? We can go up here. Now we're not going underneath, just like that. And we're going to get our wire. It's actually not wire. It's oval. It's gold. But it's oval tinsel. This is the one I'm using. Can you see that? What does that say? I'll take it off for you. I have a cutoff in this bag that I'm going to use. That's a real good trick to saving your cutoffs. Put everything in a plastic bag. So Danville's is size 14. See what I do? A plastic bag. Get that cut off, throw it right back in the plastic bag, and it's really easy to find it then. You're never going to lose it. Now we're going to tie this in. I want it to be underneath. Get underneath there, you stupid thing. There we go. Dubbing. I'm using, from what I could see in the loop there, they use a hare's ear, but they also definitely have a bunch of guard hairs with it, like a real good amount of guard hairs. So I'm thinking they probably used the hare's ear like right off the mask, or at least they did a mixture. You know, they did the mask. So that's this, right? Just an actual mask. And they yanked it right off in specific spots. And they mixed it up, which is what I'm going to do. Yeah. I think that's going to be okay. There's one. So we'll make sure it's nice and good right in this back part. This stuff, when you tighten it up, I mean, it just basically disappears. So one turn in the back, and then four. We'll catch it underneath here. I don't really want to tie this in forward of the wing. I want to keep that spot pretty open. But I am going to add some thread to it, just so we have something to tie on to. Okay, Hackles. It's Hungarian Partridge. Very small. See that? Very small. And I don't have many of these, and they don't have that many hackles on them. And we're going to use a little bit of the fluff. Just a little bit. And we're also going to tie it in at the tip. We have to tie it in at the tip. So we're just going to get in here and grab the tip like this. See that? And we're going to bring this back. Okay. I think we're going to put 2 turns in there, and then we're going to tie in another one, same way. What do you think? Well, I have a third. Let's do it. Let's put 3 in. Okay, let's go to the front here. We're only really going to get maybe 1 turn in the front. Can I turn these all together? You know what? I'm going to turn the first 2 together. What are we going to get? We're going to get 1 turn. 1 turn behind. And 1 turn in front. Let's use it all up here. That's 2. Somebody's shoveling their driveway outside. I don't have many neighbors, so I'm fairly certain I know who it is. Let's see. Can we get this in there? Can we get it in there? 1 more. Man, this fly is something else, man. How do they do this stuff all the time? The people that tie these things, like for a living, they amaze me. I mean, they just amaze me. These are some heavy-duty stems, but I'm kind of worried that if I don't fold them back, I'm not going to really... Yeah, let's just throw some extra turns in here. And we'll just clip them off. Move this stuff out of the way. You can always bring the wings back. Don't worry about messing them up. I see one little fiber. I'll tell you, when I think of old flies, like really old flies, I think about flies that make no sense. And this fly, to me, makes absolutely no sense. It is the complete and total opposite of what we fish now. Yeah, this is what I think about when I think of old. I mean, when you think about the Catskill flies of, say, 80 and 100 years ago, I mean, they're using hackle. We're using hackle now. Yeah, our hackle is incredible, and the barb count is out of control. A hackle is reproducible, meaning like the colors are reproducible, the quality is amazing, easily accessible. I mean, it's everything. But it's still hackle. Yeah, we're using CDC now, and they're synthetics. But the principles are the same. The principles on this thing are freaking all out of whack. This doesn't make any sense to me. It goes against everything you're taught as a fly tyer. Soft hackle in the tail, and around the head. And nobody fishes a feather wing anymore, but people know about it. People know about feather wings, of course. So I think that's like the least strange thing about this fly. Maybe the hook is the least strange thing. People know about these hooks, but I can't believe they use them. I can't believe they use this heavy hook with this hackle and this tail and this wing and that rib. It just doesn't make any sense. If you took this thing out of your box nowadays, somebody saw you with it, I mean, they would look at you cross-eyed. They'd be like, what in the world is this guy doing? I mean, he's out of his mind trying to fish this thing. But back in the day, when 10 casts got you a soak-through fly, I mean, you probably caught 5 fish, right? I mean, it didn't. Nowadays, you can't 10 casts and you're soaked down to the shank. You can't have a fly like that. Fishing's hard now. But back in the day, if it worked, if it caught you a few fish in 10 casts, and it's great, right? It makes complete sense. So I think that I get it. I mean, I get it now. I mean, it didn't matter as much back then. It matters now a lot. It matters now a lot. So I don't know. Maybe I need to take this. I would never fish this hook for sure because of the barb. It's too dangerous of a hook as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you got to be able to. Nowadays, the barbs are tiny. You can leave a barb on a hook. I mean, the barbs are so tiny, they just pop right out. But this, you couldn't smash this thing down enough to make it smaller than a barb that's nowadays. So I'd put it on a modern hook, but I would fish this. I think I might want to fish this thing this year, just like it is with the rib and everything, but just on a modern hook. I think it would be fun. I mean, it'd be like a real true test of your casting ability. That's for sure. When you only get 10 casts before you just have to clip it off and put a new one on. It's pretty cool. All right, wild looking March brown. Thing's amazing looking, I have to say. I mean, this thing is beautiful. I mean, it's just. This is a beautiful fly. There's no doubt about it. That's probably why they fished it, because it was so beautiful. All right. Thanks, everyone.